Hi guys, in this video we are going to review solving equations, and inequalities. Take time to write these down as notes because it will help you. These steps to solving an equation. In algebra, we solve equations that have parentheses inside of them. We solve equations with things like terms, stuff like that. And this is the way to solve them. So first we do distributive property, which is a multiplication of whatever is on the outside of the parenthesis to the inside. For instance, I use arrows to show that I am multiplying the 4 to the 7 and to the negative m right here. And same instance on this one, the negative on the outside of this parentheses is technically a -1. We distribute the -1 to both of the pieces inside of the parentheses. The next step after we use the distributive property, actually let's continue using our distributive property in this first example right here. So -1 times 6m is -6m. -1 times 8 is -8. I write the equal sign. 4 times 17 is 68. And 4 times -m would be -4m. This is technically a -1m, just so you know, so it's it's 4 times that -1, which makes -4m. Okay, we finished our distributive property step. Let's move on to the next one, combining like terms on the same side of the equal sign. So we look on the same side over here to make sure if we have any like terms, they are put together. Like terms are pieces of the equation that have the same things, so that has a variable and that one doesn't. Those two are different terms. If you continue because you did not need to solve or to combine any like terms on the same side, you move to the next step, combining like terms on the opposite side of the equal sign. So I noticed that this and this are two like terms, but they are on the opposite side of the equal sign. The way I can put them together is by using the inverse property, which means that you have to use the opposite of whatever it was in the first place to cancel it out and move it to the other side. So -4, the only way to make that go away is to add 4 to it. It makes it 0. Which means over here I have -6m plus 4m. I now have a -2m on this side because -6 plus 4 is -2. I bring down that -8 and I bring down the 68. I didn't do anything with those just yet. I also noticed that these two are like terms as well. I haven't finished combining like terms that are on the opposite sides, so I do need to combine those. Those are both constants. They don't have a variable hooked on, which makes them alike. Let's bring this 8 over here to be with the 68 by using our inverse property. I add 8 to both sides because that is the opposite of subtracting 8. Those will cancel out. I write -2m, and then 68 plus 8 is 76. And my last step is to divide by 2. When I divide by 2, 2m divided by 76 is 38. Or I divide by 2 on both sides. So actually that is a, that's a -38. Hopefully you can see. The next problem, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line. I am going to refer back to my steps, but I'm not going to bring the paper down to look at them. First step is always distributive property. So I'm going to draw some arrows from the outside of my parentheses to the inside of each piece. I know that I'm going to take 4 and multiply 0.5 by it. So I take 4 and multiply 0.5, which is 2. So I write 2 in. And then I take 4 and multiply it times 3. It was considered a -3 because the subtraction sign right there, so I'm going to write a negative or a -12. Over here, I write the n because it did not have anything to do with distributive property. And then I have a -0.25 times 12. This is considered the same thing as taking a fourth of 12. And this is also considered a negative, so pay attention to that. The answer for this one is minus or negative 3. 0.25 times 12 is 3, but it was a negative, so I leave it a negative. Then I take 0.25 and multiply it times negative 8n. You can always use your calculator on this stuff because I will always mess up if I'm trying to do it in my head too many times. So 0.25 times 8 is 4, and those are two negatives multiplied to each other, so it makes it a positive, and I can't forget about the n. All right, our second step is to combine like terms that are on the same side of the equal sign, which would be this n and this 4n right here. Everything else is not alike to that. I'm going to rewrite my equation and put together this n and 4n, which makes 5n. And then I rewrite the minus 3. I'm done with like terms on the same side of the equal sign, so I move to like terms on the opposite side of the equal sign. Let's start with the variables. I could either subtract 2n from both sides and move it over here, or subtract 5n from both sides and move it over here. Either one works, but I choose the subtracting 2n. When I do that, I am left with this negative 12 on this side. It was a minus 12, but I'm not going to get rid of that subtraction sign, so I'm going to leave it, and it turns into a negative sign. 5n minus 2n is 3n, and then I rewrite this minus 3 right here. So we're getting smaller and smaller in our equation, getting closer and closer to our answer. I then have two more pieces of like terms. So I'm going to take this negative 3 and try to move it, or the minus 3, and try to move it over here. The reason I don't move the 12 over here is because then I would have an unbalanced equation. Everything would be on this side. I need to be balanced to where I have stuff kind of working on both sides here. Add 3 because that is the opposite of subtracting 3. Negative 12 plus 3 is negative 9. And then I have 3n. And my last step is to isolate my variable. That is my fourth and final step after I have combined all like terms that are on the same side. Isolating your variable means to get this by itself. That is actually what I did up here. I don't know if I explained it all the way. Negative 2 is being multiplied to the m, and that is why I divided negative 2 on both sides so that it would go away. Same thing is going to happen here. I am going to divide 3 on both sides. That way 3 can go away when it's next to the m. N is all alone now, and negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. The answer for n is negative 3. Let's look at inequalities. Inequalities are almost the exact same thing as equations, except the final and fifth new step. So you notice that I put from steps 1 to 4, I said these are the same exact steps that we use for equations. So in equations, we always start with the distributive property. If we don't have distributive property, we skip over the step. The next step is to combine like terms that are on the same side. When I'm looking for the same side of things, I usually look for the equal sign. This time I'm going to look for the inequality symbol. I like to draw a line like that to kind of keep things organized when I'm moving from side to side. You don't have to do that, but you can always do it if it helps you. I don't have things that are on the same side, like terms that are on the same side. This does not look like this because that one has a variable and this one is just a constant. Same thing over here. What I do notice is that 55 and 10 are like terms, but they're on opposite sides. Same thing with these two. So my third step says to combine like terms that are on the same or on opposite sides of the equal sign. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to combine, let's say, these two first. I'm going to go ahead and move my 5x to this side. So subtract 5x from both sides. I do that because the only way to make 5 go away is 5 minus 5. It equals 0. I don't have to write 0 plus 55 because I already know what 0 plus 55 equals. So I have negative 4 minus 5x makes 9x's plus 10 with my inequality symbol and 55 on that side. That was the only thing that was left. Now let's combine these two like terms, and I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. That goes away. I have negative 9x with my inequality symbol. 55 minus 10 is 45. I wrote 44. And then last but not least, I am done with combining like terms. So let me just check on it says to isolate my variable. That was the fourth and final step of usual solving equations. So let me go ahead and divide by 9 on both sides. I get x, then the inequality symbol. 45 divided by negative 9 is negative 3. The important part about inequalities is this is not the final step. This is not the final answer. We have to pay attention to something very important. Step number 5, flip the inequality symbol if and only if you divided by a negative and the last step. So in our very last step, when we were isolating our variable, did we divide by a negative? Yes. If you see that, you need to know that your inequality symbol flips and it becomes whatever opposite it was. So whatever it becomes, oh my gosh, I cannot talk. It becomes opposite of whatever it was. I leave everything else the same. The only thing that switches is the inequality symbol. This is no longer my answer. This is.